Good afternoon, everybody. Again, welcome to Humanities 101. It is October 8th, 2024. It is now 12:03 p.m. And for a little while, I will be hosting you at our Humanities 101 course. Just a couple things today. I want to let everybody know again, we had a Google Meet last night. Quite a few students showed up to ask questions. This is all good stuff. I am happy to make that something that I can do, whenever's needed. I do plan on having another one probably, honestly, probably that last week of October. Right before your November 1st deadline, so that there are any questions the week before that deadline, or at least the Monday before, I will have a Google Meet. So pay attention to that. The other thing, I will be on campus on the 16th of October. Again, those of you who got tickets for lunch, again, they were free tickets, but those of you who secured a space for lunch, come to the 5101 restaurant at 11:30. Look for me. I will be at the table. They open at 11:30, but if you want to get there at 11:35, that's fine. I'll be holding the table for you. But please make sure that you're there by 11:40, because we want to make sure that we order for everybody and get everybody fed, right? Some people have class, so we don't want to wait. And we will order without you at 11:40. For those students who couldn't make to lunch, at about 1:15, 1:30 or so, I will be letting you, again, I'll be posting a location that I'm going to go to. And next week, I'm going to announce that the day before on the 15th. But probably from 1 to 1:30 to 3 or so, I want to hang out in a coffee shop. I'm going to give you the location. But I do want people to vote in the chat this week. So for your comment this week, I want you to leave one of three things. Okay. Either we're going to meet at the coffee shop, and I'll decide which coffee shop in West Dearborn, close to campus. We'll meet at the library. So the Centennial Library there by the police station, some people have suggested that, or the third place on campus. So I can hang out in the student center or on the library or even in my office on campus. I can announce that next week, but I'm going to take a vote this week in the comments. So campus, library, or coffee shop. Where do you want me to meet? Do you want me to go to the Dearborn Centennial Library? Do you want to meet on campus, or do you want to meet in a coffee shop? And even again, if you don't plan on meeting, this is your way to get participation this week. So comment down in the comments, campus, coffee shop, or library, and I will take those votes, tally them, and next week let you know whether I'll be meeting people from 1:30 to 3 on campus, at the Centennial Library, or at a coffee shop. Okay. So again, welcome everybody. I look forward to having lunch with the 6 students that were able to get time. If you are interested, again, in me running another one of the lunches, please let me know in the comments for this video. Let me know you're interested. I'm interested in a lunch. I'm interested. And I'll set something up maybe in 2 weeks. Okay. I have to be conscious of their buffet schedule, because they have a lot of holiday buffets, and we have to avoid those because they get crazy. Okay. So I already see one vote coming in the library for the Centennial Library. That would be, again, there on Michigan Ave. So again, vote there in the comments, vote early, vote often. I'm just kidding. But let me know your 2 cents. Okay. Now I know that switching gears, the only other mandatory assignment that's due from now until the end of the semester is the November 1st response to one of these videos. Okay. Now, again, it does not have to be a live video. It does not have to be a video from this semester. There are lecture videos about the 20th century history. Last week, or no, the week before, the last lecture from from September. I apologize. The last video from September, I actually did a mini food anthropology assignment. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of the concepts that's important for our accessibility assignment. So if you're doing the accessibility assignments, making the world accessible for someone, that's what I'm going to talk about today. Again, just briefly, just to introduce some of the topics to get you thinking. So some students, they can make a response to a mini lecture like I'm going to do now, or even from last week, but some students feel that they need more to go on. So there are interviews, there are bigger lectures, there's even public speaking engagements that I've held in other places that I make available to you on the YouTube channel. So feel free to search around the Humanities 101 page, and any video is fair game. Okay. You do not have to appear on camera. Again, you can utilize technology. You can have voiceover, right, over slides, things of this nature. Okay. So just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. The menu assignments, again, are not due until the end of the semester, but I will be grading those in earnest starting this week, because some people have turned them in and want grades. So I'm going to start grading what I have. If you have turned it in, I assume that that's for grading. Okay. So I'm just going to start going through and knocking out grades, because that's going to be more or less work for me in the long run if I do that now. Because some students will wait till November 1st to turn in everything, or turn in their first slew of things, and then I'll get this onslaught. So I try to take it as it comes, and take it piece by piece. Okay. So if you have questions about those, as always, feel free to post those. And that's something that even I can do here in these weekly lectures that we get together. I can answer those questions here, or even prepare a lecture to answer those questions. Okay. And I see the comment down in the rolling chat on YouTube asking about, can we do it on a weekend, maybe not a weekday. I'll look at my schedule and see what I can do. Again, I have to work that around my family schedule, just because I don't typically work on the weekends. Okay. So, but that is something that I'm willing to do if I can make it work. I'll take a look. Okay. And I'll let you know. That would probably be, honestly, probably early November that I could make a weekend work, just looking at the weekends as they're laid out so far, because we only have 3 more weekends in October. Even though it only started, we only have 3 more weekends. So, and when you're old like me, they get filled up quickly, because I know this Saturday I already have something, and I believe one of the other 2 I have something, but it's not my somethings. All right. So other questions, other concerns, I will answer them as they come through. Today, I wanted to introduce the concept of, because October, as many, all months embody usually some awareness, some idea of acceptance. We see that with heritage. We see that with certain types of parts of religions, political ideologies, all this other stuff. And October is no different. It is sensory processing disorder awareness month. And if you've never heard of sensory processing disorder, this is basically the neurotype that people who suffer, quote unquote, from sensory processing disorder have different ways to perceive audiovisual information, even tactile information. This is where, I mean, you can, there are parts or types of neurotypes where people can smell color, right? And taste words, so to speak. And this is part of that neurotype. So sensory processing disorder is one of those Venn diagram of comorbidities with things like autism. Okay. And so it's one of those interesting things that when we talk about the way that we can make the world more accessible for all, Sensory overload is one of those things that a lot of people, even though they may not have sensory processing disorder, autism, something like this, it affects you. You don't realize it, but it affects you. Constant noise, constant buzzing, the lights, the textures, the smells, all of this can overload a system and you not even know it. Those of us that have these sensory processing differences, we are aware of that. Some of us, we've been made aware of that, I was 40 years old when I learned that other people cannot hear fluorescent lights. All right, that they don't hear the buzz of the fluorescent light, and that they don't understand that today is the day that that light's going to burn out because it's buzzing at a different frequency than it's been buzzing for the last semester. Okay. Those are the types of processing differences that we're talking about here. And so I wanted to talk just briefly about the ideas of neurodivergence and neuro-inclusivity, and then a concept that myself and some of my colleagues have come up with, ways to accommodate regardless of situation. It's a kind of a theoretical framework in which to conceptualize the world that you're walking around in. Okay, so it's not something particularly that you can apply in a step 1, step 2, step 3, but it is a 3-step kind of mnemonic so that you remember the things needed for dealing with any situation, and processing disorder being possibly one of them. So when we talk about neurodivergence and neurodiversity, okay, what we're really talking about in the concept of the accessibility assignment is that the idea of normal and your concept of what is or is not normal is socially constructed. And if you think about our normal in Dearborn as opposed to a normal in, let's say, Ann Arbor, or the normal in Michigan as opposed to the normal in Massachusetts, or the normal in the United States as opposed to the normal in Yemen, or the normal on planet Earth as opposed to Glactar, the 17th planet in the intergalactic empire, far, far, far away in another galaxy. I'm kidding. But again, all of these kind of ideas of what is good or bad, right or wrong, normal or abnormal, are usually socially constructed. Those of you who have traveled around the world or traveled to different countries know this. You know that in different countries, whereas the idea of masculinity might change, right? There might be men who walk down the street holding hands, even though in other cultures that would be seen as effeminate. That would be seen as anti-masculine, right? The idea of the sun, setting over the ocean or rising over the ocean usually is normal, depending on which side of the world you grew up on. My friends who live in New York, for instance, and watch the sun rise over the water, expect that sunrise to be connected to the water that they have known their entire life. Whereas my friends on the Pacific coast, right, it's connected to sunset. The water is connected to the end of the day. And so that, again, all of that will play in what is normal. And we talked about this even last week with food, and the fact that people wanted the food that they became normalized to in Italy, or they became normalized to in Southeast Asia when they got home from combat and they said, I want pizza. And then they put a pizza shop on every corner, and now pizza is normal, quote unquote, American food. All right. The same way this works with neurotypes. So neurodivergence is the idea that anything other than the quote unquote normal, right? And it's kind of a non-medical term that describes the way that brains develop and function. Basically, the fact that we all think differently. The fact that when I say the word, and we've been talking about this for hundreds of years in philosophy and in literary theory, because when I say the word tree, the linguist Ferdinand Saussure would say, some of you see the word tree, T-R-E-E. Some of you see the picture of a tree in your head. And some of you, even you imagine the actual tree that you fell out of when you were 10 years old and you broke your arm, right? And so when I say that word tree, Some of you are going to hear it, some of you are going to see it, and some of you are going to experience it. And that idea that we all might experience that same concept differently is connected to neurodivergence here. Okay. So it's the differences in the way that we think, we feel, and we process information. And neurodiversity is that this is just normal. The idea that there are many ways that the brain functions and there are many ways that the brain thinks, it just accepts that. So neurodivergence kind of conceptualizes the idea of what is outside of normal. Neurodiversity takes it a step further and says, there is no normal. There just is the brain, and there are different ways to think, period. Okay. And so when you put those concepts together, you get what then leads to an idea of neuro-inclusion, which you can guess means including all of these different neurotypes in the way in which you build the world, the way in which you interact with the world, and the way in which you interact with people in that world. And that's important because, unfortunately, buildings can't interact with me yet. Refrigerator, we got smart technology and we got refrigerators that can tell me to buy milk and stuff, but for the most part, they're not sentient yet. Okay. So when we're thinking about the idea of accommodating others, okay, and the idea of the ways in which we can make the world more accessible for people, what I talk about within this this menu project is micro-accommodations. Okay. And these are little, small, everyday actions or even concepts, right, that you can put into action that can change the lives of people right now. And to conceptualize this, a lot of people, need a number. And so I give you the number of under $200. So anything, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later this semester, because there's some wonderful examples from around the country of micro-accommodations that I've seen. But small, itty bitty little ways, and this is the median worker pay, $200 a day is the median worker salary in the US. And so if you can spend in less than a day's work pay on something to make the world better for everyone, I would say that's a micro-accommodation. It's universal design in action. And so these are little, okay, almost sometimes insignificant ways of insignificant to the person actually doing them, but hugely significant to the person getting them, ways in which you can include different neurotypes, right? Show that you understand the concept of neurodiversity and neuro-inclusivity by including all of these different neurotypes. And so one of the ways that I conceptualize the moral, intellectual, and kind of, even if you want to, spiritual fortitude with which to approach the world with the idea of accommodating for everyone and making sure that the door is not just open, right? Because it's not, we can't just open up doors. We have to make it welcoming to come into that space, right? Because if I open up a door to a creepy haunted house, it doesn't matter that I say, well, I made it accessible to everyone. I didn't make it welcoming. Okay. So the idea of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, except for those of you who are deathly allergic to peanuts, is usually a comforting thing. Okay. When we think about, lunches at elementary school, when we think about, people, comfort food in a universal, PBs and J's come up, even if they're not your universal, because some people like peanut butter and pickles. Some people like just jelly sandwiches. I mean, there are people out there that are like, I don't like any of that. Put some Vegemite on that thing and slap a few slices of onion with some tomato. Okay. But whatever sandwich you need to conceptualize, all right, think about that act of making a sandwich for someone else, making a snack for someone else, and usually the kind of kindness that's required in there. Because yes, I know I'm just getting you some chips in a bowl or something like that, or I might be handing you some hummus and carrots or something like that. However, it's an act of love, it's an act of acknowledgement, and it's an act of community. It's saying, here, I know this is something that you need. Maybe you're hangry, right? And this is something that you need. And I really do think that it's one of the most basic human things that we can do for each other is feed each other. So when you can't physically feed someone, you can emotionally or even spiritually feed them the same way with PB&J. All right. And that's patience, remembering the behavior is communication, and just being present. And there are myriad books written about patience, or concepts of patience, but no kind of definitive book. I found one by the Dalai Lama. I found some philosophers talk about it, but even when you go in and find those books, they'll be like, yeah, patience, you'll know it when you see it. And so that's really hard for those of us who don't have patience to figure out what that is. So I really do think patience is kind of a combination of these next two steps. It's understanding that behavior is communication, right? Understanding that just because I am not telling you that I'm nervous, if my body language is telling you that, if my actions are telling you that I want to run, if it looks like in my face, my eyes are darting from left to right, and I'm starting to, kind of rock back and forth like I want to run out of here. Pay attention to that, right? If someone tells you, no, absolutely not, I don't like this one bit, right? And they're shaking their head yes, that's going to be a confusing message. So you're going to look at that behavior, right? And you're going to look at those words that are saying no and the behavior that's saying yes. And there's going to be some miscommunication there. And usually people will focus on the behavior more than the words. Am I wrong? Like in a one of those kind of, situations where there might be, are you okay? And they go, yes, I'm 100% okay. Wouldn't you trust the action over the word? And so when we think about in the everyday world, and you're out there at Walmart or wherever, and you see somebody who is having a bad day, okay, their behavior is communicating things. Their behavior is communicating, stay away from me, right? Their behavior is communicating also, stay away from me, but notice me, pay attention to me. I need something, but you don't give it to me. Okay. So I would say that, when you think about kind of a concept of being here, all right, of being patient, one, the concept of behaviors communication, and then the other is being present. And it sounds really hippy dippy and it sounds new agey. And it's much easier for those of you, of a younger persuasion. So if you're between the ages of 17 and 24, this may be easier to be in that moment because you don't think about another moment. But as you grow older, you will start to, when that prefrontal cortex kind of connects, all of those, they're all going to laugh at you voices come. And all of the social pressure of, even if you are literally shielding someone in a situation where maybe they're harmed, right? And you've got pressure on a wound, you're still cognizant of everyone looking at you. And that's something that in youth we don't have as much, that we gain in older age, that sometimes we have to shut off and we have to say, you know what, I am here for this moment, I'm here for this person, and screw everyone else. And so really getting to the concept of helping everyone is really keeping in mind that when people are having a bad day, maybe they just need a snack. Maybe they need a little bit of patience. Maybe they need someone to focus on their behavior and how it is and what it is communicating. And then just being there for that person, listening to that behavior, communicating back to them that they are safe, communicating back to them that you are one of the people that they are safe with, and then showing that with your behavior. Because again, if you say, I'm safe, and you shake your head, I'm going to read that behavior as communication, and I'm going to say, absolutely, that person is not safe. They're telling me flat out, I am totally safe. Okay. And so when you go forward in life, okay, and when you go forward in thinking about concepts and even dealing with family, with friends, with your siblings, I know a lot of you have, battles with your siblings. They always say, put yourself in another person's shoes. And that's sometimes hard to do, right? Especially when, you're the main character of your own story. But if you're focusing on what is the message here, what are their actions saying? What is their body saying? I know what their words are saying if they're using them, but what is their body saying? And if you try to decode that message and you're just present for decoding that message, you'll be shocked at the amount of connection that you have. Next week, that's the whole point. The whole point of lunch with students in the 5101 is so that we can be present in that moment, share each other's company, make a human connection, share a conversation, share a cup of coffee, whatever. But I am going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask you who you are. I'm going to ask you, what are you into? Is there anything going wrong? Anything going right? What's your favorite pizza topping? Is a taco a sandwich? I mean, it seems ludicrous and it seems absurd. But as I mentioned to some of the students last night in the Google Meet, if you meet with another student for the Turing test, right, that assignment where you take the Turing test and you both want to turn in your individual, you want to turn in a video for yours and they want to turn in the same video for theirs, that's fine. But just the fact that you two are meeting in a room and talking about that proves, at least partially, that you're human. Having that conversation about the Turing test and proving, because again, sometimes non-humans don't worry about proving themselves human. Now I know, CAPTCHA, different thing, but okay. So I want you to, again, when you're going through your life, I don't really worry about what you do as a profession. And I'm not really worried about who you are as a professional. I'm worried about what you do and who you are as a human or human. Okay. I'm really concerned about what you do and the life that you leave for others behind you and the life that you lead for yourself, because that's the most important thing. It's not how others perceive you as much. It's the people that you care about how they perceive you. That's one of the important things, but it's also how you perceive yourself, because there are a lot of people that get glory and praise from those around them, and they get glory and praise from society in general, but they don't glorify and praise themselves. They don't feel it there. So no matter how much it shines from out, if it doesn't shine from within, it doesn't matter, right? And so I really think that simple concepts, something as remembering a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a situation where you're like, man, that person's a real a-hole, and going, what is their behavior saying? Why are they an a-hole? Am I present here, or am I focusing on an event I've had with another a-hole in a similar situation? Or am I dealing with the way in which I, again, my own crap, right? Because often we get involved in our own crap when we're trying to help other people, and it becomes more about us than it becomes about them. So when you are looking for the menu project and ways to apply and the ways to make the world better for everyone, look at people's communication, look at their behavior. What are they saying, right? You'll see this a lot where places have been inaccessible, and then they'll get a wheelchair ramp and they'll say, wow, we've never had people with wheelchairs up here before until now. And usually people who are in wheelchairs say, yes, because I couldn't get here before. It was inaccessible. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Again, if I tell you I'm safe with my words, but I don't with my behavior, we're going to know this, right? Humans are aware of this. This is why the way in which we learn, especially as primates, especially as empathetic mammals, the way that we learn is modeling. And this is why they'll tell us parents, you can tell your kids 50,000 things, but if you do the opposite, they're going to do that. They're going to follow you. You can say, don't come to the river, don't come to the river. But if they're following right along behind you as you're walking like the duck to the river, we're ducks, we don't swim. We're ducks, we don't swim. We're ducks, we don't swim. And they'll look at you and they'll say, well, mama, why are you swimming then? Okay. And this is usually where we get in kind of trouble in society, because surprise, surprise, the children hold the adults to the lessons that they've taught, not the words they've spoken, but the lessons that they've taught through their behavior. Okay. So, I'm so happy that a lot of you got to come and be here today just to talk about those little things. And let's see. I'm not sure, Manar, what you're asking, but there isn't. The only video response is responding to one of any of the videos that I have posted on the Humanities 101 channel. I'm not really sure what the holiday response video you're talking about. So if you want to send me an email, I'll try to answer that. And even if we want to Google Meet, okay, I'm not sure, but yeah. And howdy, Pumpkin King. Good to see you. I am the Pumpkin King. I can do anything. So again, Manar, I will look for an email from you. Please, if you can clarify that for me. And again, remember that next week I will be on campus having lunch. And then if you vote, right? And remember, your mission for this week is to vote. Do you want to meet at the library, the Centennial Library? Do you want to meet at a coffee shop? Do you want to meet on campus? Vote campus, coffee shop, library. And if you want to keep the alliteration, Centennial, campus, coffee. There's 3 C's for you. And do I have an example of a response? No, I don't have an example of a response. There's not been a student who has released that just because it's a personal kind of thing. Again, I am just looking that the big thing is proving that you have viewed the material, right? And to interact with it. So, and again, I highly recommend not using Q&As. That's why I've been doing these little mini lectures. Today, I talked about neurodiversity and neurodivergence, so that you have something to talk about. But the 20th Century Humanities lecture is a great one. There are interviews on there. You only have to choose one video to respond to, okay? Don't forget to vote this week. Centennial Library, coffee shop, or campus. I will be making that announcement next week at the 15th meeting, which will be a very short meeting on the 15th. I'll just be checking in, telling people where I'm meeting, answering any questions that came in through this week, and then preparing for Wednesday, because Wednesday is the big day that I'm going to be on campus and in Dearborn, meeting with people. And again, if you've got a different suggestion, if you're like, hey, I work at the hotel right across from campus and we can meet there, that's fine. Or I work at the hotel restaurant, or if I work at the, whatever, I know of a place, let's meet at because again, the Centennial Library was not on my list, and a lot of you suggested it, and it looks perfect. I've been there many times, but I never thought about to meeting there, because I thought, well, they won't want to meet in a library. And you all are like, yeah, we want to meet in that library. So even a lot of you have already said yes. Okay, so I look forward to seeing a lot of you next week. I wish you all the best and have a good week. And remember to keep your left leg on the left side and your right leg on the right side. If not, you might fall out of the saddle. Okay? All right, have a good one.